This is the agenda we're going to follow, and we're going to do an introduction, a little longer introduction, which I'm actually going to cover before I turn it over to Chuck to do the technical deep dive. And the reason is because this is a techie kind of presentation, techie product, we don't want to scare anybody who's not super technical off. We don't want you dropping off this thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to understand this. So we want you to understand the why behind the what. And once you understand the buyer personas, the pain points that they have to deal with, the nightmare they deal with, our IT teams deal with literally a nightmare every single day. And then we have some suggested discovery questions you could use to get a conversation started with them, and as their trusted advisor. Just so that's we want you to keep in mind the problem that this amazing tool solves, and as you watch Chuck's overview of the product. And then we'll go into definitions, we'll go with benefits, features, we'll go into some use cases, and time permitting, we're going to do a company update after that. So let's talk about the problem. And the problem is really very well illustrated over here on the right with that diagram. And we talk about the enterprise edge because everything's moving to the cloud. And the edge is getting extremely complicated. There are not just 10 types of devices, there are hundreds of types of devices. It's not just laptops, it's not just cell phones, it's Apple Watches, it's video cameras, it's IoT devices, it's testing and monitoring devices that are reported on. And the applications have ballooned as well. You have especially the collaboration applications, Teams and Zoom. And then you have companies with multiple locations, and those locations even multiply because you work from home and work from anywhere situations. So at the bottom here, you see a list of tools, and some of those tools are good, but we don't think they're as good as Enterprise Network Intelligence. And we think Enterprise Network Intelligence from VMware is going to unseat a lot of the tools that have been in place for the last 5 to 10 years that IT teams have come to depend on. So we've mentioned about the work from home, and the BYO, bring your own device, has always been creating a trouble for IT teams. But to give you an idea of how big of a universe of devices and applications we're dealing with, Edge Network Intelligence is trained to detect 30 million devices and 3,000 applications. That gives you an idea of the universe of possibilities that could be on your network topology and that your IT team, with the IT team, and especially a large organization, has to deal with day in and day out. And they have to not only analyze that data and ensure device performance and application performance, but they have to deal with security too. Well, how can they do this? How can they do this? It's a daunting task. As I said, they can have hundreds of, one enterprise can have hundreds of devices or hundreds of applications, I'm sorry, and thousands of devices. Take a very large global enterprise that has 10,000 employees in multiple countries. That's a lot to worry about. Given an enterprise, you may have a lot of clients out there that have grown through acquisitions. There are companies who don't know for sure what they have in their network. They've acquired companies over time. There's been turnover in the IT team. They're still trying to figure out what they have. Their experience with performance issues has not been as good. A lot of times they can't really debug what's going on with the current tools. The SD-WAN orchestrator is helpful, but it's not enough because it really focuses on layers 1 through 4 on the OSI model, and Chuck's going to touch on that. What would be best for the IT operations teams today is if they had a network that could correct or self-heal itself, because they're spending way too much time on collecting and analyzing data, and they're not able to do the remediation. If you look at this last bullet, they spend hours, days, weeks collecting, analyzing, and not really doing remediation, and they get called out for this, and the fingers get pointed at them all the time. Well, it's a big problem. It's not really their fault. It's the status of technology and what they've been dealing with over the years. So as you reach out as a trusted advisor to either new clients or existing clients, we recommend that you probably focus just on the corporate IT or the network and applications folks. It's not that a business buyer wouldn't appreciate this, but we think this is probably a better way to present this. And as you can see the titles on the right, now on the left, these are still things that are true today. IT teams have been being asked to do more with less for years, and COVID shutdown didn't help things. They struggle to be proactive. They're often, reprimanded for not being proactive enough. But look, if you look what they have on their plate, you can understand how that makes it harder to do. Currently, the help desk spends about an hour. An hour is the average time a help desk can spend using remote desktop tools to troubleshoot issues for users, especially remote employees. And everybody thought that the work from home population would be smaller than it is today, but instead it's much larger than they anticipated. In fact, there was a stat on the financial news this morning that commercial real estate in New York has dropped in value because nobody wants to go back to the office to work. So a lot of the tools that IT has been using are outdated, and even the alerts they generate are and they're not inactionable. So they really need help with insight into the network. And that is what VMware Edge Network Intelligence provides to them. Now, these are a couple discovery questions that we recommend that you start with to get that conversation going. And do you lack insight into the root cause of any SaaS application performance issues? We're hearing a lot from people who have collaboration tools like Teams and Zoom and UCAS in general, that there's a lot of performance issues there. Well, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than what people may think. And you really need to do a deep dive with a tool like Enterprise Network Intelligence to figure it out. Figure out where the collisions are, where is the incompatibility issues. And it's good to ask them, does your team spend too much time troubleshooting issues via remote desktop tools? That hour per incident can really add up. And now, is lack of automation tools or lack of proper automation tools, maybe I should have wrote here, causing your IT team to be more reactive than proactive? And how would you rather spend your time in remediation, actually solving the issue, or endless data collection and analysis paralysis? So, and then of course, I would recommend you ask them, do you want to do a proof of concept, an SD-WAN proof of concept that includes enterprise network intelligence? So with that, we just keep those problems and the things that IT is facing in mind as Chuck does his demo or his deep dive on the product. And you'll see why this tool is so important when you put it into perspective. So with that being said, Chuck, I'm going to give you the mouse and let you move
Alrighty.
the slides and let you take it from here.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you. Thank you for that market update. Hey, Airspring Land, how we doing out there? I want to say hi to all the newbies, as well as all my direct sales force. Yeah, that's all you agents out there, because as you know, you are my direct sales force. I've been looking forward to this presentation for a while, actually about a year and a half. About a year ago, we talked about the Edge Network Intelligence, Enterprise Network Intelligence, kind of new. What's going on? Might not heard a lot about it. Well, recently, due to the VMware SASE architecture, as we're going to see, the SD-WAN and the Edge Network Intelligence became one. And because we are part of that architecture, we're going to get the benefits of AIOps, just because you're an SD-WAN customer with Airspring. Yeah, it's a whole new sell with us now with the architecture. Because you're an SD-WAN user, you're going to get all the benefits if you want to use them. It's up to you. Remember, co-manage, buffet, got to do it yourselfers, got everybody we got to make everything for and everything in between. But as I always do my presentations, we got to define a lot of acronyms. Chuck, come on back to the human side. I often get that. But artificial intelligence, you say that, you get your own talk show today. It's crazy. Senate subcommittee on it. Heck, if the government's getting involved, there's money to be made, right? But what is it? AIOps ML definition. Artificial intelligence for IT operations using machine language. The VMware Edge Intelligence is a vendor-agnostic artificial intelligence for IT focused on the enterprise edge. Wow, a lot there. The key is focused on the enterprise edge. Okay, what's the enterprise edge? It used to be a building with humans in it, loops, port, box, router. Yeah. That's all going everywhere. The edges, I'm sitting in the edge in a bedroom in Thousand Oaks. Where's your edge at on a PC? Some of you are on the cell phone driving down the freeway go, oh, what kind of jokes is Chuck going to call, right? The edge has changed. Now go to Wikipedia and look at the standard for machine learning and artificial intelligence for IT. I'm going to a lot of AI classes and seminars trying to learn, no pun intended. And my view of it's more of automation intelligence that we're dealing with here than artificial. And we'll see that. But let's scroll down here. Oh, wait. All right, real quick, what is VMware's Edge Network Intelligence? Big overview. You've probably seen this slide 1,001 times. Hopefully you have. It's part of the SASE architecture. Simply, it's the brain of the SASE architecture. Is it the police force? No, it's the brain that runs the police force. Is it the SD-WAN load balancing or remediation and, that ASIP and the voice never breaks when you pull the cable? No, it talks to that, but it's the brains behind it. For all users, all devices, no matter where they're at, anytime, any place, measure, baseline, recommend, and remediate. It watches the rest of the architecture and the devices it talks to and records everything it does. That's very high level. But whether it be on the client app, an IoT device, wireless LAN access point, or the wireless LAN manager, network services, SD-WAN boxes, the LAN itself, firewall security services, applications, it is a true layer 4 through 7 network observation system. I use that term because it does more than monitor. It observes, baselines, recommends, and remediates. It is one of the pillars of the VMware SASE architecture. Geez, Chuck, you said SASE architecture 10 times already. That's what we're really selling here. SD-WAN brought us into it. E&I is the first product that joins with us, but we are selling an architecture and there's more to come. How does it integrate with what I have today? Well, most of you out there have sold some form of AirSpring, VMware SD-WAN. You probably wouldn't be here, but I thank you for that. And you got into this game 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. And your customers are under contract, our customers are under contract working. Well, if you read the second point here, as of 4.2 release, 4.2.2, and any release onward, the Edge Network Intelligence is just a feature in the SD-WAN device. Loyalty, thank you. Remember, I always used to say, I'm your technical partner. You got a buddy in the business. Well, you're going to see this one here is already part of the product you have out there. All we got to do is turn it on. How it works, it uses that same DMPO language through the edge device, back up to the orchestrator, but it also talks to a new part of the edge orchestrator, the edge network intelligence part of the orchestrator. And you'll see when you're using the same orchestrator GUI, you're going to hit one icon, and you're going to get a whole nother page, gives you a whole new world of your network. It's all built in. So on-ramp training, turn-ups, no problem. It's there, turn it on. Now let's say you don't have an edge. Remember, this is the SASE architecture now. If you don't have an SD-WAN edge, you can still use the Edge Network Intelligence. We're going to show you that a little later on, where it talks from a client directly back to the orchestrator through the wonderful encrypted world that DMPO does. So that's the, what's behind the screen. It's an add-on to what you have today. That's nice. This little salesy slide here, trying to, maybe it's my Mike Chase slide, trying to get everything on one slide. I'm sorry, Mike made fun of you, but trying to tell you, hey, look, it's going to use automation scripts and artificial intelligence to gather massive amounts of data that are happening all the time. Right now, as I'm talking, everybody's MS Teams is sending a keep alive to make sure the presence is updated. All that kind of stuff. If you look at it here, whether you're at home or in the office or at the data center or going up to the cloud, kind of forms a box, E&I. So it's watching everything that comes in and goes out, what they did, why they did it, who they did it with, what did they do it with what they did it with, for lack of better terms, and stores it. So you can analyze it later. Some of the main features you'll see is watching that customer experience. All the iPhones running Teams or Zoom meeting over certain carriers. How was that experience? So as you feed or as it collects data from all these resources, it starts comparing them depending on how they got there over what they got there to get where they're going. So it's quite wow, whether it be Wi-Fi or, API connectivity doing it, it's all in there. So it is very quite inclusive in that respect. Okay, now there is, we sell networks, folks. We don't sell fruit, as I always tell my internal company. And even for us that are pretty technical, there is also what I call my nerds like me that want to know how every bit is used. I tear it apart. I have to see it. I'm tearing apart everything, put it back. How does this thing, and I'll call it a thing for now, do what it does? Well, it uses lots of tools like anything else. But because we all use Ethernet, 802.1, whatever, 802.2, 802.3, Ethernet's been around now for 50 years, by the way. Happy birthday, Ethernet. Certain protocols are used to join this PowerPoint meeting we're having right now. You used each one of these to get here, by the way. You use some type of authentication to get in. You got an IP address before you even get anything to get out. And when you did get out, you had to call the operator. I'll put in old phone terms. I had to dial 0 or 411 because I didn't know Ellen's home number. So I went to the DNS server and say, here, I know Ellen Cahill. Give me my IP address for her. Off you go. That's DNS. So you use all these things. Hey, it's working. Who cares? But that's what the VMware Edge Network Intelligence is going to watch. To my SIP phone people out there, we use a thing called MOS scoring, mean opinion score, plus R factor. We're going to watch all the R factor stuff now and measure it so that we know that phone call, what the conditions are like before that phone call is placed, literally. So these are the protocols we're going to be watching and using, some of them. I got into how it works. How it actually works, very high level. As soon as the license is turned on the edge, the orchestrator tells E&I orchestrator, it's on, starts collecting data from the application down to layer 1. So layer 1 through layer 4 primarily with the SD-WAN, the wide area, and then the application information we get out of the SD-WAN policies that we create. That's where we start funneling the traffic up. It baselines the network over a 2-week period. It doesn't know what baseline is. It has to learn it. And this is a key feature of the VMware machine learning. There is no preset indoctrination about what a network should be. That's last year. That's last century's technology. QoS. Today's networks are fluid. Every network is different. Every network is unique. End of story. So it learns what your network does for that customer and what it's doing and who does it. Then it sets that 2-week as a baseline, but it doesn't stop there. Every 2 weeks, it's creating a new baseline, fine-tuning it from the last baseline. So that over a 2-year period, it keeps all that information and all those baselines. Usually after 72 hours, though, you start to see who does what and where and how, what they're doing and so forth. Keeps it. And then the analysis part will offer you to compare your network to other people doing the same things that you're doing, meaning same devices, same X, same Y, same Z, not to use math on this, all to try to improve, to show you how your network's running and where certain anomalies and or problems might be occurring. Okay, a lot there. Yet, it's very easy to use. Only has 6 buttons. Got all this information in it. When you see the login, and you'll see it here in a second, it has dashboards. Gives you a quick summary per node, per network, per whatever you wanted it to be. Very flexible. It's going to report incidents. It's going to say, look, the DNS out of LA is getting really, really sloppy, getting a little bit larger. If you don't fix that, your voice is going to break up and your video is not going to work. It's not going to say all that, but that's what it's trying to. What I mean by that, we're going to start watching certain protocols that these applications use. And if those protocols have problems, we can guarantee the applications will have problems. Analysis. If we're going to collect all this stuff and store it, we might as well do something with it, right? So now we're going to give that IT manager their own trend analysis if they want it. They might not even need trend analysis, but we're trying to make that IT manager look like the god of networking to that team, because that's where we get our deals. So we have to give them all the weapons we can. By default, it creates a live inventory. Who came in and who left on what day, every day for the last 2 years. That's what it does. And of course, you got to have reports. It's kind of funny with this. I often ask about the reports, and people, VMware and other people say, well, Chuck, just go into the trend history. You can go get anything you want. And I'm like, oh, okay. But they do give reports out for those periods we want to look at in CSV as well as HTML for the humans. And then, of course, admin, who can do what, who can look at what inside the actual Edge Network Intelligence portal itself. All righty. Now, before we start looking at screens and what it's doing, we're going to look at some basic features that give us basic benefits, and then we'll look at those in action. It likes to talk to things. I would actually probably rename mine C3PO, because natively it talks to every VMware SD-WAN edge. To it, that's normal family. As soon as it comes up, you turn it on, we're talking. Give me your info. But you can also set it up for the Edge Network Intelligence to talk to a VMware crawler. Now, Chuck, what's a VMware crawler? All right, there's a little bug on the ground. No, it's a VMware server running, and I wish Clinton was here with me because I always forget ESIX. I'm sure I didn't say that right. One of the most popular software platforms in the server world. You can have a little license on it, view the world. But it talks to Aruba, Cisco, Extreme, Ruckus, access point controllers, already canned up in the GUI, in the user manual for the do-it-yourselfer. Perfect. Good old SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol. Been around as long as Chuck has, I guess. Whether it be for NetFlow or server, also talks natively to Cisco, Alcatel, Lucent, HP, Aruba, and Juniper switches via CLI or SNMP commands. But it's modern. It's 2023, Chuck. You can't talk about SNMP. You should be talking about application programmable interfaces, APIs. By default, I have mine talking to the Meraki dashboard. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't have told that. NetOps might be listening. APIs to Microsoft Teams or Office 365, Zoom, 8x8. One of those guys we resell as well, and has a generic MIST GCP version. It's meant to talk to other machines. Does it very well. A little screenshot of all the different APIs set up there. It likes to watch. It observes. It's the stenographer in the courtroom that's typing everything down, listening to everybody talking of in the court, but also telling me that the kid in the third row is chewing gum and hitting his sister in the head every 3 minutes. Right? So it gathers all, but the key is the self-learning. This is the part I really like, because you often, well, this is how you got to do it and you got to fit into it. Networks aren't built that way anymore. The more flexible and fluid you are, the more networks you're going to sell. That's why that self-learning is critical. How customer A learns might be twice as fast as customer C, because they're doing different things with their network, right? And of course, I always talk OSI model. It's how I was always trained back when. It is an OSI layer 4 through 7 monitoring observation device. It starts with the TCP, transmission control protocol packets, UDP packets, and watches thereup. The SD-WAN gives it the information about the wide area. So as you can see, it uses the architecture to gather all the information as well as help do the analyzation. Now, I just threw out some acronyms that we usually don't see here. Access point signal to noise ratio, or the RF way. Chuck, my people have no idea what you're talking about now. Well, in the Edge Network Intelligence GUI, you can click a question mark and it'll tell you what all that means. It's almost like clicking the WikiKey page right in there. We're going to see that. As it gathers all this information, stores it, got it, protocol, everything. Oh, wonderful. How do I get it to the human? Because the human's paying for it. Well, you can search and sort by what applications are active, what applications were being used. You can do it, and that's all 3800 Ellen was talking about earlier. You can look at it by this client viewpoint, which we'll show in a while, by IT groups, by APs, by servers, by LANs, by switches, by SD-WAN edges, or by crawler. Because there is so much information that collects, just the amount of traffic we generate. To make it easy for the end user humans to find it, we can tag different devices with different tags that we can create, so that this is an iPhone that uses the AirSpring DAX and the AirSpring Radix, which is our private ERP systems that we're watching. Sure, we're going to watch Alexa today. We'll show you how Alexa works. And of course, kind of a built-in Chuck Long, Solutions Engineering, Mike Chase, and Clinton team, hit the question marks, go ahead and use it. Actually, what you see here to the right is the summary page when you log in of who's on right now, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know, third base, right? That whole game. But you're looking at who's on what, who's doing what, who's using what, and there's a couple incidents in there. I think somebody's DHCP is slow. The first benefit we get from all those features is the live inventory. What's on the network right now doing what? Want to go back and look what's doing last week? Go ahead. You can look forward, which I haven't had that option yet. Then we're in trouble, but we won't say that. When was the first time they're here? When was the last time? Is it IoT devices? Is it a thermostat? Is it a regulator off a UPS system running a generator for a hospital? These are the kind of things you want to watch. I paid all that money, Clinton, for that new software, and nobody's using it. Why? I'm running the applications. I've only seen 2 people out of 200 log into it, right? This come up. And then of course the signal to noise ratio and the AP. Hey, what is the signal to noise ratio in the third AP in the back of the warehouse right now? Okay. Yeah, so this is all available. But besides showing you what's live, remember it baselined it. It continuously baselines it. And when it sees something that doesn't match the baseline, it's going to let you know. Now, how it lets you know is up to you. You can, we don't want any chicken littles here. Oh, this guy, no. We want to be no false positive. We want to be professional, be, right, accurate. And it's looking at all those protocols, and whether it's per node or per network or per device, it's going to report them. And you can set the P1 to P6 deviation. What do you mean, Chuck? Well, you're setting levels, and they come CAN. A lot of this is all CAN. Don't worry. You can adjust them, though, so that, hey, I know that node has bad wiring. Don't tell me about it all day long. You can set its deviation different from another node if you like. That detail is available. But what you're getting as an alert or alarm is a deviation from your baseline. So normally your Windows Teams runs at this baseline number, we'll say a 7. Today you're running a 5. Why? Your DNS is clogged. Your resolutions, people are trying to get their presence updated. It's not working because your DNS server has issues. That's the type of stuff you're going to get with this. And then, of course, as I said, even look at Alexa. So they have a little screenshot of the live from the last 2-week period there from 5/3 to 5/17. All kind of stuff on there. Some of the other people I won't mention, iPhone, PC, laptops. I didn't type any of that in, as you'll see. It learns all this. That's the nice part about it. And then we look at the network history, trends, analysis, and reports. Make that IT manager looks like he's got a bunch of risk analyst management down somewhere in the basement as he gives a report to the CFO saying, we're going to need more bandwidth from AirSpring. Yeah, it's working too well. We're going to need more pipe. Application metric by number of users and average score. What is that average score? It's the combination of all those protocols being used by each application over that time period and how far it deviated from it. That's a little math in there, I know, but it does work. You can filter all this information by, hey, I want to see this application from these nodes that are running certain loops or certain access points or certain LTE devices. Okay. And it'll show you the comparisons. It's all in there. From a comparison point of view, you go down as low as a week or up to 2 years. The custom time period, though, is usually only a 2-week period on that. You can get hourly graphs if you really want to just, watch this thing crank all day. Turn on the hourly graphs and sit back. But I mean, come on, there's, more things to do in life, but it's there. And one of my favorite features is the annotations. Why? Well, I bought that new pipe from AirSpring and, oh, look, my response times are quicker, got better this, better that. So I can put a stake in the ground that when I did a software change or added a loop or upgraded X, I can track it to see how it affected the rest of the network now. All built in. Health and remediation. You get all the history and all the evidence that it saw when that anomaly happened. What's an anomaly? Clint Eastwood movie, goes in every day for 2 years, gets black coffee. This morning I drank it. It's black coffee with 3 quarts of sugar in it. Something's wrong, right? It has the history of when that anomaly occurred. So there's no more, well, wait, I want you to start a log so when the voice breaks up, you can write down the date and time and when that happened. It's already there over the period of that. How many clients were affected? How many hours of client time was affected because we had this incident or anomaly is also shown. And then you have your benchmarking as well. So let's take a look at some of these. This here is a live screenshot from my lab, the Solution Engineering Lab, for the month of May, first 2 weeks of May, May 1st through the May 15th. And the description, everything you see here is learned by the Edge Network Intelligence. I don't enter anything. All I do is turn it on, wait 2 weeks, or maybe wait 3 days, bench it 2 weeks, go look. It's telling me these Ps have come on. These are TP-Link switches up at Mike Chase's house, a Sonic wall in the old lab there, a couple of PCs, their names that they got. How did it learn all this? It reads the information in those protocols in the Ethernet packets. When it was here, when it wasn't here, first, last seen. Now, there's lots of other things I could show up here. There's well over, I think, 30 in this particular one. And then over here, you see I have a couple of tags, as well as the client application, which I'll show you in a second. Now, this client application, well, I'll show you in a second. Oh, Chuck, what's that signal to noise ratio thing? Well, here I was watching an access point in my lab, and I clicked on it, the noise score, and it says, read it. It's AP noise per basis. Any value below 40, you got problems. Okay. I don't even know what AP noise was, but I know anything below 40, I got problems. Now you're an AP expert. If you click on AP noise, it'll give you the Chuck Long version of say 802.11, microwave, Bluetooth, all those other RF waves around affecting the signal between the wireless client and this access point. But it's all there, date and time, when it happened, what levels they were getting, and the noise. So to me, that's not artificial intelligence. That's just automation scripts getting all this information, putting it up on the screen, and giving you a definition about it, but to each his own. Incidents. Oh, yes, DHCP. I do this on purpose. Why? I configure 4 addresses in the scope and 20 people ask for it. That's how you get this. But clients couldn't connect. They can't connect to DHCP. They're not going to be able to DNS, which means they're not going to be able to get out the internet. Don't worry, you don't have to be an expert. It's here for you. It can show you what device was having the problem, where it was at, time, kept it all for you. You want to come back a year from now and look at it, it's here. Gotta love it. And then we get into Zoom meetings and Windows, Microsoft Teams meetings. And if you have an API connection to your Microsoft AD server, or wherever you're getting your Teams from, as well as software-defined edges, you can create the screen I show in front of you. This is coming from the server side. They have well over 1,000 users. And what they're measuring here is how much data is being sent to and from. What's the latency of that data of that session? What's the throughput? Is there any jitter? Remember, they're comparing this against what was baselined to show that, hey, the network might be all up and running, but we're having applications issues that you usually don't see with network tools. So by all means, Zoom statistics. And as you add or take people away, you could, the IT manager say, look, I need more bandwidth, or Zoom meetings are sucking up more. Let me show you, right? And then, of course, about Alexa. Hey, Alexa, what's your QoE score? What's the quality of experience Alexa had when she went out to get their information off the internet? What? Well, Alexa over this time period was 3 times by these 3 different devices in my network that Alexa, who's going to win the Super Bowl year? That's she went. She went out, question, came back. This is me watching her going out and coming back. She had a very high QoE score, very quick. Yeah. So I figure if you can watch Alexa, you can watch pretty much everything. But that's the kind of detail that's built into it. And well, okay. Now, on the network, on the trend analysis side, it alone would be a 2-hour class. But with all that database you have access to, you can open up in network history, health and remediation, or in benchmarking. Most people will look at network history because they're comparing the overall network or a particular node or certain nodes over a time frame versus a metric. In this case here, I'm looking at Microsoft Teams performance, and I've added 3 carriers that are in my network. So now I'm looking at over this time frame from April 17th to May 17th, Microsoft Teams, who was using it over Starlink, CenturyLink, and Verizon Fios, and what was their quality of experience over those links. And I must say, we have this, I've been doing it now for a year, that the Verizon Fios, boy, you just can't beat that fiber to the home. The old stuff, it very rarely drops a packet, but I'm not getting paid for that or anything. I'm just showing you the analysis that you can do. There are over 20 different filters and about 30 different metrics that come canned, but it doesn't stop there. This here is why I'm excited. You know, I get all excited about this stuff, the nerd that I am. I come from the test and measurement industry before I joined AirSpring in 2012. I was a competitive analyst for one of the top test and measurement companies in the world. We'll leave their name out. The Network Edge client gives us testing capabilities that the IT manager never had before without paying an arm and a leg. It's a client that you get. You log into the ENI. You log into the orchestrator. You go over to the ENI section. Go under settings. Go under client. Download it. It's right there. Put it on anything you want. Right now, it works with Microsoft Windows and Mac OS. They are working on the cellular versions. And as soon as you put it on, I only use like 40 to 50 meg of memory. I got it on 2 phones, 3 PCs. I give it out to everybody in the company. It comes back and tells the orchestrator everything about that device, whether it's behind an SD-WAN or not. Tells the orchestrator everything about that device, whether it's behind an SD-WAN box or not. That's SASE. Because you joined the SASE architecture, spreads. Now I'm going to watch devices that have nothing to do with my SD-WAN cell, if they want to, and create tests on those devices to tell me that quality of experience from that device back to the network, back to the orchestrator, just like the SD-WAN Edge does. And how it got there, what was its experience? What was my ping times? What was my DNS resolutions? What was my HTTP GET resolutions? So now I can proudly say, literally with the ENI client out at the edge, where you got Max UC on a PC, you're using 8x8 client on a PC. With the Edge client, I can basically tell you the quality experience that phone call is going to have even before you make the phone call. Why? Because I'm doing the same thing it's doing all the way back to AirSpring or 8x8. And now we're going to run that all day long. So now we can sit there and say, oh, look, the QoE for all those hosted phones over here in Chicago, they're running about an 8 or 9. Okay, all right. Awesome. Proving our stuff works, but more so giving us as salespeople ammo that when we go back and talk to customers and other customers, if your SASE solution doesn't have a brain, you're just building on a house of straws. And that's what you'll see most of the firewall solutions have. You gotta have this type of insight into the network, or you're not gonna be able to support the SASE world that's coming. Oh, by the way, I mentioned earlier about loyalty, and this part I've been dreading a little. Every one of you that has a customer with us that has an SD-WAN Edge, when you turn it on, they'll get 20 clients. That's on Avi. Say thanks, Avi. That's the product structure I have today. So if you want to do proof of concept, get a hold of your channel manager. They'll get a hold of me and we'll make it happen. Now, some of the use cases here, I'm going to speed up because I'm out of time, but I did want to show you these. We got these slides from our friends at VMware. Thank you, Melanie and Rodney. Woo! Same verticals we're in. Retail, logistics, manufacturing, healthcare. Plays everywhere. They're all using their same BYOD devices or whatever, right? So it plays well. Healthcare, you actually see the Edge Network Enterprise software itself came from the healthcare world. It's where it came from. So we play very, very well in that world, as well as education use cases. What is the health of the network? What is the global health of the campus network? Which brings up an analogy that you might want to use with your customers as we look at applying it to AirSpring applications. What Chuck's really doing here is he's taking each application, looking at its pulse, its blood pressure, and of course, all you out there like me, you were type 2, every 3 months, what's your A1C, right? Well, we're doing it with networks now. Here, standard AirSpring AirPBX setup with SD-WAN. VMware 620, Cisco switch, Yealink phones, firewall of your choice. Hopefully it's one of ours. But now, and maybe they have Max UC client on their PCs for soft phones, very popular. Put DNI client because they have the VMware, comes with it. I set up these synthetic tests. PC now every 2 minutes or 3 minutes is making a phone call back to Air PBX and giving that rating up to the E&I so that if there are any issues, we know when it happened and where it happened by default. That's what I mean. Those synthetic tests are so important. And they're also doing DNS resolutions because why? Every single soft phone out there, every single hard phone out there running voice over IP, every 30 seconds sends a DNS SRV record to say, hi, I'm alive. How you doing? It has to. Why? Because it has to know your presence at a minimum so that you know that, don't call that, let alone to keep the service operating. That's the pulse we're going to watch, right? Making sure that pulse gets there. If that pulse goes away, I can guarantee your voice is going to break up. So that's how that works. But at AirSpring, if you pay for it, we're going to watch it. Why? Because you're paying for it. Like the tunnel, right? Tunnel's protected. Well, that means our SIP truck customers. Wait, where's my click at here? Why is it not clicking? There it is. I cover my voice. That's what I sell here. So I got the Air PBX and the 8x8 watch. Well, I'm going to do the same thing for a SIP trunk customer. Check, they got a PRI. How are you going to watch a PRI with software? Well, come on, people. With our AdTran, that's our SBC. It converts that to SIP, maybe even T38 with some faxes. As long as it's E&I clients on the same LAN behind the edge, it didn't even have to be behind it, but it would be nice. It's going to get the information about that network, and we can set up to ping it, look at it. So once again, even with my PRI customers, they have the VMware, turn on the Edge Network Intelligence. I can watch all those SIP trunk calls coming back to the SASE. And along the way, I'm doing the old troubleshooting trick, folks. Come on. I'm just pinging my way back to Bill and Eric and Brad up at the SASE team and coming my way back. The nice thing is, I have a very cost-effective way of doing it all day long now and reporting it so I can watch all those important applications so that you know they're having issues before those users do. Now, the Edge client got me all excited, obviously, you can tell. Here, this is my PC giving you this presentation right now. I'm laptop 60, Windows 10, on a local Spectrum, good memory, everything. E&I has everything I'm going to show you. The E&I orchestrator has it already. Well, a couple days ago, actually this is a couple weeks ago, I was having a lot of problems in the afternoon from 2 to 2:15. And then I realized it was because all the kids locally were coming home and the DNS and the Wi-Fi, they were chatting with me. Look at this screen here is why you use the Edge Network Intelligent client software. I am pinging, these first 5 are the default that VMware uses on all their clients to get a heartbeat, pulse rate, blood pressure, A1C, no matter where the client's at. But it doesn't stop there. We can add our own URLs, IPs, or HTTP gets. And what you see here is this me tracking the time between my PC and the E&I orchestrator. Hey, it's got to watch itself if it's going to watch anything, right? And then below it here, most of you know there's switch 27. We've never sold any more. Oh yeah, that's the moneymaker there, the switch 27. And now below there's 8x8. These are all in the same colo down at LA. But if you notice, my ping times were great. My DNS resolutions were horrible. And my voice broke up because of it. 2 minutes later, it was all resolved. I was lucky enough to get the snippet there. So that's the kind of detailed information that's available with E&I Edge Network Intelligence. Is it for everybody? Sooner or later it will be. But the nice thing is, because it's part of the SASE architecture with VMware, I can offer it to you by just simply turning it on. Maybe you want to play with it. Maybe a customer wants to play with it on one node. Maybe a customer wants to use it right away. Chuck, I don't want to do it. Once again, with AirSpring, it's always, as the agent customer, their choice of the buffet. But I think those who have the existing SD-WAN, this will be a nice point of contact, and also to start your SASE conversation, saying, look, your loyalty's paid off, you paid for this, 2 years ago when you bought into our SD-WAN story. Now you get the E&I with it, 20 clients per node. And yeah, the story's just, we're just, Empire just strike back. Next fall, we go do the Return of the Jedi, right?